Welcome back. Here's where you left off. Spoilers ahead for Able-Bodied Soldier by Jason Anspach and J.N. Chaney. So Able-Bodied Soldier, we've read it, we've talked about it throughout this, about sort of the themes in there, about the mechs, and about the overall arc of the book. And as we've gone through these chapters, I have completely thought about the overall perspective of the book, Leonard, and what you might think about that. But for me, I think that the writer intended a very broad team building sort of exercise. But there's one thing I cannot escape from for this entire book. And it reminds me of a show that leans on action scenes rather than deep, character development. And I couldn't get away from that feeling while reading the book. The action of the book, we've already both agreed, was great, wonderful. But really, my question to you is, did you find the characters in this book meaningful and motivating, and were you invested in them?
That's actually that's the word I was looking for you to say, invested on the character. I am not invested in the character going into the first book. Reason why is this. I felt like the characters are very two-dimensional. You have the main character Titus. We got a backstory from him. That's great. But is the backstory good enough for me to say, yes, this is a character that I will like? No. You know which character that intrigues me more? Is the head mechanic Oscar.
Yeah, I was totally going to say that. That is so wrong. And I mean, he gets to fly it out, drop the nuke, and you were probably doing the same thing. I'm like, yeah, go, man. Go, drop that nuke.
Oscar's backstory is more exciting and more relevant to exactly what's happening compared to Titus. Titus is supposed to be the main character. His backstory is very simple and straightforward. It's very, very typical hero type backstory. Like, he was a early teens, aliens landed in Vancouver. He was fighting as part of the resistance, and as a resistance, they pushed the aliens out of the planet. Yay! Now he joined the Solar Defense Force as a grunt. Next thing you know, he lost his legs, and he's a mech pilot. But if you look at Oscar's backstory, he couldn't join because he has health issues, but he ended up joining as a mechanic because it was a trained mechanic by his uncle, and he worked his ass off to be where he is and his smarts, and his goal was always to fly a mech or being part of the front line, right? And that backstory was way better than Titus. Way, way better. I'm talking about like
I'm not
a million ways better.
I think I said this to you during one of the week reviews, is that I like Titus's backstory. In fact, I like it because they've incorporated that he has a disability and he's overcoming that disability, and he's not asking for any special favors for that. I think from a development, he's an excellent character. I like the way he was written. I like the way that, he was overcoming that. I don't have an issue with Titus as a character. I really don't. And I agree with you about enjoying the other guy's arc more. But the problem I had was that the other characters that were there just weren't grasping you. Like, Dylan is like the annoying guy who's the cocky whatever and so forth, and you kind of hate him to hate him. But it seemed that a lot of the book was written to give you this sense of, during the training, that these people were supposed to invest in this team of people. And I wasn't invested in the team. I cared about what happened to Titus, but I wasn't really invested. If Dylan died, I wouldn't have cared.
Yes. Even when Nico got injured, I felt like it's like, oh, okay. What do you want me to feel about this? Do you want me to say, oh my gosh, he got injured, let me stop the book and swallow, like get in my corner and rock because one of the characters got injured.
I think we've been spoiled because we know what true death in a book leads to.
I wasn't going that route, but yes, no, I agree with you. We've been spoiled with good character deaths that it was meaningful, and for this case. Sorry, go ahead.
What I mean is that we need to be fair because this is only one book, and that what we're talking about here is over many books of a character being developed. And so that's a bit of unfairness. Okay. But if you're approaching it from the fact of you want us to invest in Titus losing his teammates, then you should have put more time into developing those characters. So when Titus loses them, we have a sense of loss for that rather than, oh, okay, well, he's going to have a harder time now than moving on. And so I thought the character developments for those other, even though I can say there was an attempt, it was only, I think if I read back on it, I looked into this before we did the final book review here, and they spent like a paragraph on each, giving them like this little tiny backstory or something like that, which isn't enough for me to care. I mean, I understand that they have a backstory, but you weren't invested. He spent so much time with Titus in doing that. And okay, I'm invested in Titus, but I just don't see the connection or the cohesiveness of a team. And what did you think about the team dynamic?
The team dynamic is unique. Like we've read books that the team dynamic is very Cinderella-like. Everyone gets along very well, right? In this case, it feels a little bit more realistic regarding the team dynamic. They like each other enough that they respect each other, but they hate enough that they annoy the crap of each other. You know what I mean? And I have no problems with it. The team dynamic was good because it felt real. If you look at it, if you ask me the same questions on other books, my comment is I feel like it's a Cinderella style team dynamic. They get along very well. They eat lunch together. They eat dinner together. They eat breakfast together. They play. They sing karaoke. They play pool together. It felt that if you put one person or 10 people in a team, everyone will get along. In this case, in this book, 8 to 10 people showed up, and none of them get along. Some of them will get along, but none of them will get along very well. And that felt real. That felt more realistic, right? And this team dynamic is great. I do like how it's written. I like it how it was formed because it felt real. But if you ask me if Titus and Nico were good friends in this team dynamic, no, I see them as pals, as a colleague that they get along, right? And that's what it felt like when he got injured. Titus was pissed because his work buddy, his work wife, got injured. Right, his work husband, or whatever. Yeah, that's what that feels like. Like it's like, for example, if one of your good buddies in the office got injured or away, of course you're going to say, "Hey, what happened? Oh my gosh, what happened? Are you okay? Are you okay?" But outside work, I bet you're not going to contact this person. And that's how it feels like. And that's why I'm saying that it felt realistic, that the team dynamic is just a work friends thing. And Titus and Nico's relationship is the same way. But I can tell you right now, as soon as you get them out of that base, none of them will talk to each other.
So I have a question for you then. So what is the one thing in the book that you took most issue with?
Let me get my list.
No, actually, because I have a specific one. I'm curious if yours lines up with mine, and I have some reasons behind it. But I mean, I know it feels like we're really bashing on this book. I don't intend
we're not bashing this book. We're just giving a very realistic review.
it does have a very specific flaw in it. I'm wondering if you're seeing the same thing I am. So what is it, the one thing that you took issue with the most?
The biggest issue, or are we talking about just the whole entire book itself, or the characters, or what?
Look at the entire book. Let's look at the entire book as a whole. Yeah.
Okay, but my issue with this entire book so far, again, we haven't, because I believe book 2 and 3 hasn't been released yet, I think. The issue I have is several. One of them is the length of the training. They can literally cut that training in half and go fight even better. Fight, and you have more. Then the book will not be as boring. I can literally say that it was boring. It was boring for the first 30 chapters. I was bored out of my mind, and the other issue I have is a character. It's not the character itself, but how it was developed. I wished we had a better backstory with Titus. I wish we had a better backstory with the program itself, because the mech program the mech program was designed was supposed to be for the Navy, but they scratched because it was too expensive, so the Army took over. So when it was retaken over again with another department, it got evolved to something else, and that's fine. But I felt like the program itself was just there. It's like, if you're gonna show a storyline based on a first person through Titus' eyes, we should have more backstory regarding how this works. I wish that Titus will poke more about the project, not just accept it for what it is, right? The other one as well too, number 3, is the mech thing, the enemy mech. Like I said in the last episode, I have problems regarding this mech. I think I posted in the last episode is like, if you took the mech out from the storyline, they would still go out of the planet to fight. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of things that annoys the crap out of me. It frustrates me, and I keep asking myself, why is this happening? Why do we have this?
I want to pose a question to you then.
Yeah.
Who is the villain in this story?
Oh, that's actually good. I think we had a conversation with this in the last episode or 2 episodes ago.
No, we didn't. I've been holding on to this.
Oh, really? Okay. I thought we had the discussion.
No, we didn't. I've been holding on to this because it's an overriding arc question in the book, and it's one that was appropriate for the full book review. But who is the villain in this book?
In this particular book, book 1, is the humans, not the aliens. The aliens was the catalyst of the war, but the humans as the proxy to fight other humans. So the answer is the humans.
Did you buy the villain in this book? Was it meaningful?
Is it meaningful as in what?
Okay. Did you buy that these guys were the big baddie in the book? In other words, what they gave you as an explanation as to why you as the reader needs to think, oh my God, these are the bad people, we have to go out and shoot them. Did you buy into that?
Yes. I can honestly say yes.
Okay. Why?
Why? Because it was explained in the first 4 chapters. That's why I kind of I understand who they're fighting.
Okay, no, we're on the right range here. What did they explain in the first 4 chapters? Exactly, specifically.
Okay, so they said that the aliens tried to take over the planet. They landed in Vancouver. There was fight scene there, but there was a bunch of humans thinking that the aliens are God, quote unquote gods or supreme, that they should be worshiping, and now they're using the humans to fight this proxy war because the aliens were theoretically beaten out of the planet.
All right, I'm with you. You're doing fine.
Yeah.
The question is why.
What do you mean why?
The question is why. For me, right?
Oh, sorry. Before you do that, why the humans fighting the other humans, or why do they?
Yes. So your explanation is what they give us in the book, right? That these are cultists, that they've decided that the Thafari are whatever
bad people,
but
aliens,
I don't know.
conquerors.
But they don't actually give you a reason.
They did.
There's no reason given. I went back and I reread it, man. There was no reason.
The reason that they gave them is the reason was given because they think the aliens were the second coming.
Actually, they didn't specifically say that.
They said that they worship. They literally said they worship them.
The only thing they said is they worship them. But the reason is why? Okay, here's the thing. If you want me to buy, I mean, I think this is a really, really the worst point of the whole book is that there does not make any logic to the villain in this book. The Thafari, okay, they've come into Earth, they've invaded. Titus and all them go and fight them off, and they defeat them. Okay, is it possible that some stupid humans believe in them or something like that? Sure, okay. But the way it's presented in the book is that a significant amount of the population of Earth are fighting against another group of significant population of the Earth to fight for the Thafari. Okay, so the reason is why? Okay, I need that answered. For me, like, to say that they're cultists is fine. Okay, all right, great. What about the Thafari are they worshiping? Because they didn't give us really any information about the Thafari, and they didn't give us any information about the cultists other than to say in one sentence that they worship them. Okay, and so my argument to you is that is not enough for to make that group of people villainous enough to fight against Titus and the rest of them. So, in the sense of you believe that there's stakes here, you believe that there is something against it. Like, why are they so emphatically determined to destroy other humans when in the first encounter, the people in Vancouver defeated the aliens? So what's the worship about that? Like, there's a lot of serious holes here in the way that these people are presented. As we go through the book, Titus is fighting these guys. He loses his legs and all that. And you're waiting for them to up the stakes. Even the end of the book where you have this leader of the enemy. Did you care about him? Did you think he was some great threat? No, because you don't understand why these people are fighting against other humans. Now, if it was just the Thafari doing this, or if they had integrated the Thafari into the plot to say, hey, there's the Thafari there, a guy who's with the cultists. Basically, the argument we have from the writer is that the Thafari came, there were some people that believed in him, and since that time, for many, many years, they're fighting against other humans. That does not jive with me at all. What do you think, man?
So you're telling me that you need more context regarding why the baddies are baddies.
If you want me to invest in saying those are the bad guys, in a lot of ways, a lot of warfare and so forth is about, let's go hate those people. And whether it's good or right, whether you think that what you're saying about the other guy, he's the bad guy, he's bad because he's a bad person, you have to give generally people, a reason to hate those other people, to think that they're baddies, right? Maybe they execute everyone they find, or maybe they, hurt children or something like that. Like, I don't know, something terrible, right? But these people who are other humans, who are fighting against other humans on their home planet, even though the Thafari were defeated, doesn't make any sense to me from a writing perspective whatsoever. I was never invested in them. I didn't believe in this rebellion. I didn't understand it. And when we get to the end of the book, what we find is that these rebels, whatever you want to call them, have a larger mech. They always knew about the other mech program that is supposed to be the biggest secret and whatever. And they have a better mech with better alien technology. And it took a nuke to drop on them to stop the thing, right? So if these guys are so well equipped because Titus himself starts to think about, hey man, maybe there's more to these guys than we're thinking. They're just some rebels, but they seem to be an organized army. They seem to have tactics. They seem to have a lot of military equipment. And you could make the argument in the writing that the Thafari are the ones giving them that that technology and that so forth. But the writer never does that. He never gives us a reason to dislike the rebels. Not one reason. Not a single solitary reason for the reader to be like, okay, I'm with you, Titus. You're going to go fight them. Like, why does Titus care? He himself, he doesn't give any motivation for that. You could just include something that says that, the rebels' ultimate goal is the destruction of mankind. You don't know what the rebels' goals are. Are they to kill all other humans that don't believe in their cultist ways? Like, you could just give a line in there to say that. Do you see my point where I'm going with this? That argument.
Remember, the goal was actually the goal was actually been said several times already, that the motivation of the cultists is to serve the Scalies.
No,
that's literally their motivation. That's like, it's like saying, if my cult leaders said do this, of course I'm going to do it.
Okay. So then this, let's just take that as it is. Okay, all right. But we don't know what the cultist goal is, though. Again, any character you develop in a book, you have to know what they're doing, what do they want, and what do they need. We don't know what the rebels want.
Remember, Derek, they already explained it.
No, they didn't. That's
remember, like I said, Derek.
What was the explanation? I went back and reread it, man. I read it. I wanted to be sure.
If you want to go in depth in this one, it's kind of, I don't want to say simple, but it was very. The cultists was there. Titus even said that they ended up worshiping the Scalies, thinking that they are the second coming. Okay, you ask them for motivation of what they're doing is they're motivated to serve the aliens. That's their motivation. If you ask me for a motivation, if you're looking at a population that their goal is to worship some leader with a red hat, of course they're going to do whatever the person says. Period.
I'm with you. I totally am.
It's the same thing as this one.
I'm not arguing that point. What I'm saying to you is, during the entirety of the book, the characters, Titus and the rest of them, do not give a reason for their emphatic hatred of the rebels. We're not introduced to any character.
Okay. So you're asking me. You're asking me if they gave them, if the main characters have a reason why to hate the cultists. Is that the question?
Essentially.
Okay. Like, the answer is super simple, Derek.
As a reader,
it's right there. Even says that the aliens invaded Vancouver and /Earth. The cultists who sided against the aliens. So now the humans and the rest of the humans are fighting quote unquote terrorists.
Yeah, no, I get that. But
then what's the motivation that you're asking for then?
What I'm saying to you is that we as the reader need to invest in what Titus and them are feeling, right? In their motivation about that. So you have to, like, as an example, again, I go back to the whole Flash, right? Let's just have a big battle scene and forget about the reasons behind it, right? That's where my issue was coming in. In most books, when you reread about it, when we've reviewed stuff, we talk about the baddies, we talk about the evil person, we talk about why they're doing what they're doing, and we talk about the main protagonist and their motivation, right? Titus has fought against the Thafari. He wants to go fight against the Thafari. He talks about this in the book. Those are the people he wants to go fight. He doesn't want to fight other humans. So as a reader, I want to have a reason for him to go fight the other humans other than they're just morons. I mean, in the end, that's what we have. They're moron cultists, they're rebels, whatever you want to call them. But when we get to the final fight scene, they bring out their big mech. I didn't care. And I think you had a similar reaction. Now, your reaction was the mech needed? My reaction was, why do we care? Okay, so if Titus had been beaten back or all of his team had been killed and so forth, would you feel a loss for that? No, because the rebels aren't really a issue for you as the reader. You're not invested in their struggle. You don't see their point of view. There's no reason other than a simple statement by the writer who says, hey, they're terrorists. That's my only explanation I'm going to give you. I want something more like the Thafari gave them technology, or they saw the whatever. I want to have at least a paragraph that talks about why they're so motivated. Just to say it is not enough for me. Do you see my point?
So in other words, you're looking for an explanation of the motivation of the cultists.
If you want us to invest in, oh my God, Titus has a true purpose here to fight against these people, I want something other than just because. And that's what I felt like we got in this book for the baddie, is just because. And that was certainly not enough for me. Certainly as we read through the whole book, I was waiting for it. I was waiting for something else. It didn't even have to be much. It just had to be something else that gave you an initial impression of why these guys were doing it. These are other humans. These aliens invaded our planet. Okay. Besides them being aliens, what about them do the cultists value most, or whatever they're worshiping, right? And I really take major issue with this in this book, because as we move forward into other books, and we're only reviewing this book, the writer might have the opportunity to explain that, but I'm reviewing this book. I'm not reviewing books 2 and 3. I'm sure maybe he explains it later on or something, but that's not sufficient for me for this book. And that's the issue I'm taking with it. It's a big issue, because in other books we've reviewed, I can see the perspective of the bad guy. Maybe I don't agree with it, but I could see it. In this book, there's no reason for it given other than just because. And I have a huge issue with it. What do you think, buddy? I've been rambling on here for a while.
No, it's fine. Yeah, it's. I understand where you're coming from, because you want more intent in the characters or even the events happening in the book. I understand that. I understand as well too that you have issues with explanation. You need more explanations to it, right? I see it in a way that, because when I read a book, I read the book as the book itself, right? I understand that you want more backstories with the Faris, you want more backstories in the
okay, let me try this.
The cultists itself.
You were not invested. You were not invested in the team. You were not invested.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Rebels, right? Okay,
yeah. So that's what I'm saying. That I felt that's what you felt like. In my side, I don't feel invested in the team itself, because it feels like a Cinderella story. Right. It felt like the backstory of some of the characters, the main character Titus, is weaker than Oscar's backstory. Backstory of Oscar is way better, more interesting, right? And if you look at the overall arc of the book, the current book, book 1, the issues your issues is there's no motivation for the Solar Defense Force, other humans fighting the cultists. Because their explanation in your point of view is there's nothing. There's really nothing to motivate them. But when I read the book, I felt like the motivation, not very strong in my mind, but it's there for me to say yes. The cultists' motivation is they're being told by their overlords, fight your own people. That's the motivation that I got.
I take your point, but in a way, you're the one filling in the holes rather than the writer giving us an explanation, right?
The explanation was there, Derek. Literally, the explanation there, but like for you to say that I'm filling up the holes, I'm literally taking the word of the author and how they're supposed. Remember, we're looking at currently in this book, we're looking at the in the eyes of Titus's group, why they're fighting them. As you said, we don't know the motive. She said, based on your interpretation, you don't have the motivation. You don't have the point of view of the cultists. That's fine. That's fine. It's fake. Yeah, right. But at the same time, too, the only thing that we have right now is their point of view.
So let me ask you this question. So let's move away from that topic then, because it was enough for you is basically your answer, and I actually find that a bit surprising, but we'll go with that. So what do you think? Now we'll change it. What do you think was the strongest part of the book then? Let's just move away from that.
The strongest part of the book for me is the support staff. When Titus got injured, he went to the hospital. The doctor was very, very strong. She literally told Titus, if you don't follow what I'm telling you, I'm going to bounce you out of here and you're done. And her explanation is very simple. Follow exactly what I'm doing. You have a chance. But Titus's eyes like, no, I'm going to keep pushing myself because I need to go back and fight. So there's two conflicting agenda here that it's like Titus is so narrow and so has a tunnel vision that he's not seeing the big picture. That's fine because I'll probably do if I'm in his shoes, I'll do the same thing, right? So now let's look at him going into the training. He has something to prove, but at the same time, he finally learned that he has limitations, and that's a growth of a character that I really liked. Because we can literally see it. You can see it in the page that he's growing. He's understanding what his limitation. That's really nice to see that. When he starts training with the Mac, as soon as he goes in front of the Mac, he knows what his limitation is, and he knows how to go around. He knows how to work with his limitation to meet his goals, and that was nice. The other one as well too is when Oscar and his team showed up. The relationship between Titus and Oscar was great because you have this two different point of view of what's happening in the war. You have Titus, literally a military. He's a hero. Literally, that's what he is. And he got injured. He's trying to get back in the fight. You got Oscar. He cannot fight because he has health issues, but he's doing whatever he needs to do to be part of the fight. And that was very nice to see. So now we're going to the end of the book that they're in this jam. He called Oscar to do something that he's not trained to do. But Titus literally said to him, like, you want to be part of this fight? I'm giving you that opportunity. And he took it. And he did a great job. And those points were like the best part of the whole book. That was like the most goosebumpy part of the book, and the rest of the book was like whatever. That's my opinion. How about yours?
I tend to agree with you. That the characters were the best part. I actually found that the fighting wasn't. I felt like the fighting was used as a way to distract us, and that there were some really strong characters in the book, but they were very supportive characters in a lot of ways that they didn't focus on. I think that the writer wanted us to really be invested in the team, all the guys in the team. And I wasn't there. We both agree we weren't there with that. But the sub-characters, those that were integral to Titus's recovery and his way of valuing others, in regards to the technician and so forth, were what really motivated us moving through. And himself and his way of being part of that group and valuing those people was really the strongest part of the book for me. I think that was really enjoyable for it. And I'm just wondering, because we haven't this conversation for a while, how would you score the book? I'm really curious at this point.
My God, that's actually a very good question, because I've been thinking about this for the past week now, actually, since I finished reading the book. I've been contemplating how I'm going to rate this. It's kind of hard for me to rate this. There's a reason why I'm going to say this right now. I have mixed feelings about this book. I have mixed feelings about the overall storyline of this book. I'm going to give this with an asterisk. I'm giving this book a 7 out of 10. The reason why it's 7 and not anything lower is because of the supporting characters on this book, and how Titus evolved from being this soldier into this person with disability to learning how to adapt. That's the reason why I'm giving it 7. If I didn't have that, Derek, I'm telling you right now, this book will be under 5. That's my rating, 7 out of 10. How about yours?
Well, I also gave a lot of thought to this because we had a big discussion about this, about my issues with the baddie in the book, and how that motivation was a problem for me, because the main focus of the book, there are two main focuses. One was the fighting, and we'll say training. I'm going to say fighting. I think we agree that it all was kind of the same in the book, but I enjoyed Titus's journey. I just don't think that I was always convinced of it because of the issues around the baddies, and it really impacted my thinking when I was going to review it. So I am actually going to give it a 5 out of 10. And the reason I thought
I was harsh.
Yeah, no, really, it was. You know what? It's harsh for two reasons. One, I don't necessarily think that I think that the motivation for the enemy was so poor, in my opinion, that I wasn't feeling that I was engaged with Titus for his motivation to go fight these guys. It really wasn't there for me. It really, really wasn't there. And I was always rooting for Titus in the book to mostly get over his disability and get back to the thing he's good at and wants to do, which is fighting the Thafari. But the book was not about fighting the Thafari. His backstory is about being 18 or 16 or whatever and fighting the Thafari when they land in Vancouver and beating them. That's his motivation, beating the Thafari. And because the book was focused on fighting other humans, I felt like it didn't reach the potential of what Titus, as the main character, was motivated to do. And that's why I'm giving so much shade on this. And also, the fact that, we weren't really invested in the fighting all that much. And it was a huge part of the book. Right. So that's my explanation, buddy.
That's your explanation. It's kind of funny. I just did a quick calculation here. The average score for both of our review, for our score to overall is 5.7 out of 10. I think that's the lowest score we ever given a book.
I completely agree. And I have to tell you that I think that I'm usually very, very forgiving with a lot of stuff, because most times my score is higher than yours. If you look back on our history, I always give higher scores than you, generally speaking, or at least we're at the same level. But this is the first time I really felt against it. And I hope that I outlined the reasons for that effectively. And it's not me saying that the writing was necessarily poor and so forth. I think there was a oversight by the writer, in my opinion, when they were writing it, that could have been answered very easily. And that really took away from it. Maybe he'll address it in book 2, book 3, but we're reviewing this book. Yeah. That's where we're at. Buddy.
Well, okay. Before we finish this episode, though, I want to ask you a very simple question, though. Are we planning to read the next book? I think that will tell our audience
honestly,
how
I got to be honest with you. I'm not sure. I have to be honest with you, because I want to, there's enough there for me to say, okay, I will give it a chance, but I'm not excited to go read the second book, if that makes more sense.
Makes sense.
Join us next time as we review a full cast of actors for a dramatic reading of the book Armored by Mark Graney. Thank you for opening the book with us today. Subscribe so you won't miss our next episode. We would love to hear from you. Share or review or email us at yourbookmarksinfo@gmail.com. Join us again right here where you left off.